Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Gelfin Outreach Go STEM Show. My name is Pam Piskridge, and I'm the Program Director for Gelfin Outreach. On these shows, we will have several CMU celebrity guests answering questions that our Gelfin Center students have sent in to the Gelfin Center. Each week, before each show, I'll send out an email informing you of who the upcoming guests will be so that you can ask a specific question to one of the guests or a more general question for all of the guests to answer. The next email will be coming out soon. If you would like to send in a question, you can simply reply to that email, or you can email your question directly to gelfincenter@andrew.cmu.edu, and we may use it in a future show. On this particular show, I have 5 students with me. I have 3 mechanical engineering PhD students. I have a computer and electrical engineer graduate student, and I have a chemistry PhD student. The questions for this show we had so many come in. We're going to try to address them all. That said, I'd like each of the students to come in when introduced. And our first guest for today is Uche Agwu. Uche, come on in and say hello to the guest.
Hello, everyone. My name is Uche Agwu, and I'm a first-year PhD student in mechanical engineering. I'm initially from Denver, Colorado, and my current work within research is relating to developing lattice structures to make components on given spacecraft lightweight, so we can make the actual launch process more efficient. And I also look at 3D printing these types of structures using metal 3D printing. And yeah, that's a little about me, and looking forward to answering the questions.
Well, it's great to have you today. Thanks for coming. Our next guest, Brianna Brown. Say hello to Brianna. I'm sorry.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brianna Brown. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I am currently pursuing my master's degree in electrical and computer engineering. For undergraduate, I just did electrical engineering, and when I was doing undergraduate, I was focused on circuits and communication systems, which is just how we send signals through the air, such as phone signals, and now I'm focused more on software. Outside of school, I don't do research. I just take classes right now, but when I'm not in school or taking classes, I like to bake pastries and dance hip hop. Thank you so much for inviting me to this panel.
Thank you for coming. And our next guest, say hello to Jamie Gator.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Gator. I'm a third-year PhD student in the Department of Chemistry, and I am focused on making polymer membranes for use in fuel cells. So this varies a little bit from my undergraduate interest, which was just pretty much synthetic chemistry, but now I get to embark on a sort of different field within chemistry and expand upon that and investigate interesting applications. I'm originally from Fort Myers, Florida. That's where I did my undergraduate. And outside of my research, one of my favorite things to do is watch basketball. I'm happy that we had the bubble experience this year, even though it wasn't quite normal. But it was something. I'm happy to be on the panel and looking forward to answering questions.
Well, thank you for being here. And next we have Ernest Cabuye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ernest Cabuye. I am originally from Kampala, Uganda, but I've been in the US for a very long time now. I am a third-year PhD mechanical engineering student, and my research deals with looking at surgeons and how they go about their surgical skill sets, and how I can leverage different technologies to enable them become successful. Some of those technologies, you are already familiar with them. They are in the virtual reality space. So if you think about a video game and putting that video game in an operating room, just so that they can know exactly where they are in real time. Outside of my research, I love digital photography, and I'm also improving my DJing skills and picking out very good selections of music. I do have a favorite list of artists that I love, from anything from old school hip hop to new age hip hop, except I think Drake. But other than that, I'm more than willing to get to know more about the center and everything that's trying to do. So I'm looking forward to this.
Great, great to have you. And last but not least, Alicia White.
Hi, my name is Alicia. Thank you for having me here. I am a third-year PhD student in the Mechanical Engineering Department. I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia, and my research focuses on 3D printing inside of a gel bath and being able to predict the process. And outside of research, my hobbies include reading. Specifically, I like romance novels and working out. I really like Zumba and kickboxing. Those are like my top two classes that I like to take. And then I also watch a lot of TV. Right now I'm into like Supernatural, which may not be age appropriate. And then I also like to watch soccer. I'm really big into like FIFA, and especially during like the Olympics. I love watching the Olympics. And I also really like listening to music. Right now, my genre of choice is Disney music. So, and a little fun fact, when I was younger, I actually wanted to be a movie director.
Ooh.
I took a lot of classes focusing on film and TV, but obviously I'm not there right now, but hopefully I would like to apply that in the future.
Maybe you can take my job over. All right, we had a lot of great questions, and I'm going to start with a difficult one for all of you, but I will ask these first four questions to everyone in the panel today. Okay, Elizabeth N., it's the tough one. And Brianna, let's just start with you. What was your proudest moment?
All right, so my proudest moment was when I was pursuing my undergraduate degree. It was during my junior year. I guess I kind of have this in common with Jamie. I was doing research on microbial fuel cells. He's not doing microbial fuel cells, but he does fuel cells. And a fuel cell is basically something that takes energy from a fuel source and converts it into electricity using chemistry. And a microbial fuel cell is something that uses energy from cellular respiration as a fuel source. And cellular respiration is just the process that cells use to break sugars into energy. And in my case, my fuel cells use the energy from cells breaking down sugar to produce energy. Now, for this research, I won first place in a science fair competition, a statewide science competition. Since I'm from the state of New York, I just won across the state of New York. And I also won $2,000 in scholarship money. And that was definitely one of my best and proudest moments. I really love doing research, and I love that research, and just presenting research was such an exhilarating and fun experience for me. And I'm just so proud of myself for being able to accomplish all of that.
Did they give you a plaque as well?
Yes, I got this really pretty trophy. It's at my home back in New York since I'm currently in Pittsburgh, but it's about this big. I mean, I guess you can't tell from the screen, but it's really cool. And like when you shift it around, it changes colors. It's beautiful.
A real keeper then.
Yes. My parents love it too. They're like, hey, look, my daughter has this. Look at the things my daughter has won. So yeah, it's great.
Great. Jamie, how about you? What was your proudest moment?
So for me, I would say my proudest moment was probably acceptance into undergrad. College acceptance was, oh man, that was quite an exciting time. Oh my goodness. I would say that I really value it so much because that was probably one of my first notable like independent accomplishments. You know, I wasn't really, I guess, looking as much to my parents at that point in time. I honestly didn't have my parents around at that point. My parents, they're both from the Bahamas. while I was actually here in school at the time. So it was a little bit of a struggle in that sense, kind of just getting by without having them around because they were unable to travel. But knowing that, in any case, I made them really, really proud by, getting accepted into undergrad was definitely one of the biggest things for me.
And you said that was in Fort Myers.
Yes,
Where was the school?
so I attended Florida Gulf Coast University.
Oh, okay, great. Bet you're missing that weather right now.
Oh my goodness. See, that's the one part of living in Pittsburgh that I can't deal with. The winter is brutal.
Okay, Uche, on to you. What was your proudest moment?
Yeah, so this is hard. I'm thinking that my proudest moment is probably finishing my senior design project. And I think that's the case just because of how long it actually took. I was on a group with 5 or 6, I think that it was 6 of us total. And we were all working on different aspects of the project. And it was a year-long project. And essentially what we were building was a CubeSat, which is essentially a mini satellite that is intended to, for our case, it was intended to help with communication services that when launched, I don't think it's been launched yet, but when launched, it would help with communication services and also just help with research at my undergrad, which is at Santa Clara University in California. And I was in charge of the design and also the structural analysis or finite element analysis that we had to perform. And it was interesting because I was learning how to even do finite element analysis that year. And so I was learning what I needed to do for the actual task all in the same year. And it was busy, and then we had to write a report. But once we wrote the report and we presented, we won first place in our cohort. And so that was an awesome experience. So I think it really showed that I can do technical things. So that was a good time.
Great. No pressure there, of course. That was, everybody says, oh, your senior year in college is easy, it's a breeze. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's definitely busy. Definitely busy time.
Okay, Ernest, waiting for you. What was your proudest moment?
So I think growing up overseas in Kampala, Uganda, I always wanted to try a different place. And I'd always envisioned, having an excuse to leave home. And I remember my dad telling me that the only way you can leave this place is if you get admitted to a college or a school somewhere, like wherever. And I think he didn't realize that when he was telling me that I would be that much focused into leaving. And one of my proudest moments was when I got admitted into undergraduate at Northeastern University in Boston, because then I was like, oh, now I have a chance to go leave, explore the world. But when you're young, you don't really care much about, not that you don't care about home, but you're like, you're eager to see what the world is. And we have this saying in our culture that a man who has never left his home thinks his mother is the best cook. So after these many years out here, I now realize that, I do miss my mother's cooking. I do miss a lot of that. And even though it was like my proudest moment at the time, it was my happiest because it was a culmination of planning, strategy, hard work, I think over a period of like 4 or 5 years. And then once I got the admittance, I didn't even realize that there was the tuition bill attached to it. I couldn't even think about that. It was mostly like, hey, I finally got in, and I can travel the world. So yeah.
Definitely something to be proud about. And we'll have to show this to your mom so that she knows.
Yes.
Okay, Alicia, what was your proudest moment?
So this is a really hard question. There are lots of times in my career where I was like pretty proud of myself. So I think my most recent Proudest Moment. So I've had the opportunity of working on a lot of projects. And so one of the projects that ended up happening when everyone went into lockdown for COVID-19, our task was our group, my research group was tasked with the project of basically redesigning the flock swabs. So these are the swabs that are used for like the COVID-19 testing. And so we had to try and make them, we had to design them such that they were like more cost efficient and it was like faster to make. And so me and a group of other people on in our lab worked basically alongside with our original research and classes and everything to try to like come up with these designs. And so out of it, I had to I was like calling vendors and everyone because, you know, to make these flock swabs, you're pulling in a bunch of different manufacturers. So someone who makes the actual like fibers that go on these swabs. And then you had to contact people to actually make the rod. And so I was like calling. And so finally ended up like making a connection with some people. And then I also came up with a design to like, for how you could like mass manufacture these swabs. And so out of it, I ended up being one of the people that are on the patent for this new redesigned flock swabs. So there's still, it's in the manufacturing phase right now, but that is my most recent proudest moment.
Yeah, I'll say most recent. And thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Well, you all have reason to be proud. They're all great answers, and I'd like to thank Elizabeth for sending that difficult question in. Causes you to go back and think about, wow, what was really proud, what really made a difference for me. So thank you for sharing. This next one, and I apologize because the timing of the show was probably right around Halloween. So these next two questions, I think, are from students who might have wanted some ideas about what to wear for trick-or-treating. So we'll start with Jamie this time. Jamie, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? Sent in by Jonathan L.
Oh man, this is always a tough question to answer. I feel like you get it like at various points throughout life, but it doesn't ever make it any easier. But honestly, I think the ability to fly gives you just so much flexibility to do so many things. You can be wherever you want to be. Not encouraging people to look away from like restrictions or anything, but if you kind of want a little break from, the shutdown, you can kind of, you can go off and just do whatever you want to if you could fly. So I think I'd say flying.
Flying, okay. I think I would like that too. Uchi, what would your superpower be?
Oh, okay. So it's actually funny because I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday. And I've actually thought about this a lot because I feel like I get this question asked. I think I would say that my favorite superpower would be the ability to control atoms. And the reason for that is because everything is made of atoms. So you'd be able to, it's probably cheating in a way, but you'd be able to control yourself, atoms within yourself, and like maybe fly or something like that. You could also do the same for moving things over. So that's my favorite. That's what I would say.
The universal superpower.
Yeah, probably. That's probably, yeah, exactly.
Ernest, what about you? What superpower would Ernest want?
So Jamie mentioned a good point. It was like, as you know, in different points in your life, you end up wanting different powers for different things. But I think at this point, currently in my life, I wish I had the power to, Professor Xavier of X-Men can like read people's minds, and he can like, put suggestions in there or anything of that sort. So currently right now, I would like be able to like read the reviewers' minds of the papers I've submitted so they can say yes. I can like read the mind of the parking attendant so he doesn't give me a ticket. And then, you know, so just sort of like cheat through life that way. Then it's like, you know, or maybe have the bank teller say, oh, your bank account has an extra zero. It's like, yes. So it's right now I'm at that point. So.
Oh, great answer. Great answer. You have me crying here. Great answer. Alicia, what about you? What superpower would you like?
So I think I would really like, I'm stuck between two. One of them's very practical and in a sense where I would love to be able to multitask. So like working on homework, but at the same time listening to music, and at the same time, I don't know, cleaning my house. But another one that like if I could have any superpower, I think I would like to control time. Basically, I would like to like stop time, you know, so I have extra time to do things that I want to do, or maybe like go back in time and change some things, but definitely like go forward in time and then see how things are and then like come back and then try to like come up with it on my own. But which probably isn't very good, but still I would like to control time.
Me too sometimes. All right, Brianna, you're last.
Okay, now Alicia, hasn't every time traveling movie warned against that? That's a funny power. I like it, but let's see. I was also stuck between two. I'm stuck between telekinesis, which is just the ability to control objects with your mind, and another power that might also be along the lines of Uche's, which is the ability to control probability. So let's say that right now I have a 0% chance of getting a 100 on that test. Now I have a 100% chance of getting on that test. Woo, everything's great. You know, there's a 0% chance that I might win that lottery ticket. Now it's 9.9% chance that I will win that lottery ticket and get the $1 billion lottery. So those are the two powers I'm between. I really like telekinesis, but you know, probability, that could change my life. Change my life. So I think that is the power that I will go with, the ability to change probability.
Well, and if you need that extra cash, remember Ernest is giving it away.
Got it.
Okay, this next question sent in by Paula K on that same line. Uche, who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, okay. This is always hard because I think I have to go back to what I liked when I was younger. Because over time you see so many movies and you're like, oh, this person's awesome. But if I think back to my childhood and what I liked at my core, it was probably between two people, either Wolverine or Spider-Man. And I think I'm gonna have to go with Spider-Man because I remember I always used to do the little like Spider-Man hand symbols. And it was funny because my dad, he's from Nigeria, and so he didn't know about that, and so he thought I was throwing gang signs, and so I got in trouble whenever I would do that. And I was like, no, it's Spider-Man, and he was like, is that the leader of the gang? And I was like, no, it's a superhero. And so yeah, so I think Spider-Man is definitely my favorite. Oh man,
Too funny. We'll call you Peter Parker. Ernest, what's your favorite superhero?
This is another one that like I've gone through phases. I would say currently at this point, my favorite superhero is it's like a dead giveaway. I'm going to say the Black Panther, only because like you have this kingdom that, you know, it's advanced and you can rule it, you know, with all this technology. You're working with your sister and she's helping you rule it, and there's that possibility, like the potential of what greatness looks like. And I think for me, I've always like wanted to to be that, even without necessarily having those role models around, but like just having something that I can envision and say, you know, I'm the king of my own, you know, Wakanda, whatever that definition of it is. It could be my mind, it could be my environment, the people I keep around, but I'll definitely say the Black Panther, and the suit looks really cool. So yeah.
Cool. Alicia, how about you? Who's your favorite superhero?
So I'm actually not sure. Um, right now, I guess a superhero that I admire, which I guess is kind of like controversial, because a lot of people are like, well, he's not a superhero because he's like a normal human. So it's Batman. Um, and so I really like Batman because one, I think that he's like really smart. And the fact that he's able to hang with those who do have superpowers, I think speaks to his character. And it also speaks to his cleverness with everything. Because I guess there's a phrase where it's like you can have the best ship in the world, but if you have a bad captain, that ship isn't going to go anywhere. And so although Batman was like born into money, and so he like uses his money basically to like fight crime and everything. So maybe like the ordinary Joe Blow wouldn't be able to do it, but the fact that he's able to use the resources that he is given and applying them for the betterment of society, of Gotham, which always seems to be in danger. I think that's why I admire Batman.
Great answer. Great answer. Thank you. Brianna, up to you. Favorite superhero?
Okay, so my favorite superhero, I was actually her this past Halloween, is Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. She's just so energetic and funny, and I love her character. I was actually watching the original Powerpuff Girls last night. Like just some of the episodes, me and my roommate, even at this age of 22. So yeah, I just love her. I love the Powerpuff Girls franchise. They're just so cute, and I love the energy.
Yes, you're definitely a Powerpuff. Jamie, I think you still have to answer this.
So I'll probably go with my most recent favorite. I love Thor. I absolutely love Thor. His mentality overall, the kind of power that he just approaches everything with, like that's how I want to approach my day each and every single day. Even in like the last recent set of movies, like he had some like character development which I wasn't super fond of in Endgame, but I respect them showing, you know, how you can sort of come out of things in a different way. I think he still was able to sort of show some power in that, even though it wasn't in the way that I would have liked to see. And I wanted to still see him kill Thanos, honestly, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Great answer. Thank you, Paula K, for sending in that question. Ernest, we're up to you for starting this one. This is from Brandon S. And Brandon wants to know, if you would be stranded on an island and could only take a couple of things with you, he wants to know, what two things would you take?
Wow. All right. This is a tough one, but I think I know the two things I would take. So given that I'm also a survivalist and I know how to survive in nature so I can fish, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna take food, but I'm gonna take two things to help me pass the time. Number one is gonna be my Xbox Series X, because I'm a hardcore gamer. And it's very good, you know, when I'm trying to relax, I'll put it on. It has a lot of media. Number two would be my extensive music collection, because I feel like it will give me the ability to sort of like, you know, sample the moods. It's mostly like how do I keep from going insane? Because sometimes if you're by yourself, I'll put the game on. It's sort of like how we are in quarantine right now. You know, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm looking at my Xbox, and then I'll play it. If I won't play it, I'll put some music on. So those things have sort of like helped me be able to manage that sort of like isolation, especially during this pandemic. So when I asked, I was like, oh, so I am on an island and it is deserted and no one is here and it's just me. So what are the two things that I do the most? And that is increase my rank in Call of Duty, which on Xbox, and play music every time. No Drake in there though, so just saying.
And we're hoping the island does have an ample supply of power for you to.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that.
I mean, we could convert solar, but I'm hoping.
And he really didn't say you weren't allowed electricity or power, so you're okay with that answer.
Yeah.
Okay, Alicia, what two items would you take to that island?
So for this one, I think I would take paper, mainly because if anything has taught us anything, it's that documentation is really important. So I mean, I guess for like ink, I would use like berries or whatever, but I definitely would like to like take paper with me. And another thing I would like to take would be cloth. Because I get one cold pretty easily, and I think it would be used for like shelter, and cloth just seems to be in like everything. So those would be my two items, which is not as exciting as Ernest's Xbox, but I feel like a lot of things that we enjoy doing like come from nature anyway. So I guess I could like do, my cousins like to do like snail races. So I think that would be pretty entertaining for me.
Not exciting, but very, very practical choices. Brianna, how about you? What two things would you take to that island?
Okay, now I'm assuming that this island has like no civilization and I'm basically a city girl. So if I see too many trees, I get scared. So I'm bringing somebody who knows how to survive in the wild and a saltwater filter, like a water filter that you could like put in the water and it'll filter out salt water so that since it's an island, I could drink the water. And that person that I bring with me will know how to get food because I don't know anything. I don't know what poison ivy looks like. I cannot be out there by myself. So I need someone else. And those are the two things that I'm bringing.
Great answer. Jamie, how about you? What two things would you take?
So for me, goodness, I think I would go for probably a machete. I'm gonna assume that there could very well be some forms of wildlife that I might not be ready for barehanded. So I gotta bring a machete. I think for the other option, I'm kind of stuck between a flare gun and like matches, but I want the ability to have like fire or some way to signal just in case, just hoping that by some chance, like I'm not the only person that ran across this island and they'd see my flare gun or they'd see my fire.
So you don't want to be on the bottom line.
Exactly.
Uchi, how about you?
Yeah, this is always so hard for me, especially when the numbers are always small. So only two things. So I guess if I'm thinking of like quarantine, for example, one thing I've really gotten into is just like cooking. So I'd probably bring like a pot or a pan just to help with cooking. I think that'd be pretty helpful. And then the other thing would be really sturdy boots, just for getting around, because one of my pet peeves are wet socks. And so just making sure that those boots are waterproof and I can walk in anything. So, yeah.
Great answer. I'm like Jamie, I probably wouldn't want to be on that island. Okay, these next couple of questions were all sent in from Winston S. And they are specific to some of you because of your biographies that we did provide with the children too. So this first one is directed to Uchi. And his question is, how do you deal with the challenge of lightweight robotic structures and the movement of them?
Okay. So the interesting thing is I actually don't work on robotics, but again, I do work on the side of reducing the weight of given structures, right? And so, in my lab, it's the SIR lab, which stands for Computer Engineering and Robotics lab, so SIR lab. And I do have some friends that work on the robotics side. And so based on my understanding of optimization and reducing weight, and also just talking to some of my robotics friends, I think it's a combination of looking at the materials and components that you're going to be working with for your robot, and also understanding what type of task that you want it to do. You really want to work with components that are either solid, not solid, maybe like hollow tubes for given components. Another aspect for the material side is really lightweight but strong material. So whether it be aluminum, maybe carbon fiber, those are all aspects you need to take into account. And then when trying to actually actuate the robot, because you've already done the work of maybe selecting lightweight materials and also designing it so that the components are as lightweight as possible. The actuators and the motors that you'll use to actually make the robot move is definitely important, because based on the weight of those given components, that's how strong, either for one, that's how much power you'll need for the robot. And so if you pick really heavy components and everything, you'll need really big batteries to power the robot. But if you're able to reduce the weight as much as possible, you'll be able to get smaller motors, smaller batteries. And so it's a combination of everything, I would say.
And I guess a lot of trial and error. You've probably toppled a lot of robots in your lifetime.
I guess on a couple I have worked with, really basic ones. Yes, I definitely have done that.
Okay. Winston again. This is for Alicia. Alicia, how do you make 3D prints more detailed? I guess, more refined.
So there are several ways to answer this question. Thinking about the 3D printing process as a whole. So you first start off with your drawing or your design, which they call like computer aided drawing. So you're basically drawing your part on the computer. And then you move on to like the slicing method, or like a lot of programming. So that's basically how you're able to get the directions. The machine is able to create directions and read them in order to create your part. And then you move on to the actual printing process. So that would be like various printers that you can use. So starting off through any of these phases, you can get detailed parts. So starting with your first phase, which is designing your part, you can practically, with these computer aided drawings, such as like SolidWorks, or I think there's one called like ThinkyCAD. But basically, how you design it on the computer can be any way that you want to. So if you want things with like more inscribed lettering on it, you can do that as like the designer. And then during like the programming phase, you could like work with the software in order to get more precise results. Or outputs. And then finally, with the printing process, everything really depends on which printer you decide to use. So if you want to use, for example, the fused deposition modeling machine, so that is FDM. So those are the printers that are in basically every school now. And so those use a plastic that you end up melting down and then reshaping into your new part. And so with that process, it's not going to be give you as much detail as, say, the stereolithography, which is the first 3D printing process, but it essentially uses plastic and its liquid form, and then you cure it, which is basically you turn it into the polymer using light, so a laser. And so a laser is like really thin. So you're looking in the order of, say, like 0.3 microns or 0.03 microns versus the size of a nozzle, which you would use for your fused deposition modeling machine, which would be around the size of like 600 microns. So you're looking at 0.3 micron precision versus the 600 micron precision. And so the smaller the number, the more precise and the more detailed you'd be able to get.
So it's like a 3-phase. You can be real specific with each of those 3 parts to the printing method there.
Exactly.
Good answer. Thank you. Thank you. Jamie, and I know Brianna hinted to this before, but Winston wants to know, what is a fuel cell?
So Brianna did a really good job of kind of going over what a fuel cell is at the beginning. So I'll just try to expound on that a little bit. So she did mention that, you put in some source to help undergo these chemical reactions to provide electricity to drive power for whatever particular use it would be. In hers, we're more focused on cellular respiration as the fuel source. Whereas the fuel cells that I work with, specifically, you input hydrogen and oxygen gas, and you will get water as the output after you create your electricity. And these are particularly interesting for various uses, such as potentially transportation and stationary power sources. Typically things that usually will require hydrocarbon or fossil fuel inputs and will give off carbon dioxide as an output. These can be replaced by fuel cells and have cleaner inputs and water as the output. So that's why fuel cells are essentially becoming much more popular alternative sources of energy now.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And finally, Ernest, he wants to know, this is still Winston, how do you make augmented reality, AR, more realistic?
Okay. So just to give a quick explainer with augmented reality, virtual reality is whereby, for a lack of a better expression, if let's say you immerse yourself in an environment that's not real. So it's not physical, it's pretty much a simulation. So you could have a head-mounted set that goes on top of your head and you look through with your eyes, and then it puts you into this environment that is not real. With augmented reality, you stay in your physical world, so you can hold and touch things just as you are, but then now you're imposing virtual imagery within that same physical world. Now you will need like some special goggles to see that virtual world in the real world, and the combination of those two is what makes it augmented reality. So for what I'm trying to do is, like for my research, is that if a surgeon is in an operating room and he's, let's say, sectioning out a tissue, by sectioning out tissue, it's more like they're cutting into someone. If I can overlay the guide channel in the virtual reality through the headset that he's looking at, then that guides him throughout that surgical procedure. So in a way, it lets him know that do this here. There might be some blood here. There might be other blood here. The idea is to make those surgical procedures easier for people, for surgeons primarily, to be able to have success. Because right now, the current state of surgical procedures is that the person needs to know the whole guided path to perform the surgery in their head. They visualize it in their head, and there's no representation of that visualization in the real world. So what I essentially do, I get that visualization, I bring it into the real world, and then I see if that is going to be adequate for them to be successful. So to make the augmented reality closer, what I do is that I design these virtual environments that are going to be projected into the physical world by use of this head-mounted like piece of device or goggles. So unfortunately, sometimes you have to wear something in order to see it in the real world. That is one path. The other path is not to wear anything, but then that means I would need to be projecting from a virtual projector into the real world. And that might not be, it's called depth mapping, whereby I look at the contours of the whole 3D space, and it's more computationally expensive. But putting on the goggles means that a person can see their physical world, and in that physical world, I've introduced virtual environments. So it's sort of like playing video games. That's why, like, when I say I'm a gamer, it was like a very good combination for a project, because it's something I'd always envisioned, and seeing it flesh out that way was something I intentionally set out to do.
Will that speed up the time that it requires a surgeon to do a surgery or an operation?
Yeah, so part of the reason it's like this is because most surgeons, in order to be good at a particular type of procedure, they need what they call clinical years of practice. Clinical years of practice means that they have to be exposed to that particular health condition. So if there's a surgeon that works on tumors that happen behind the ear, he needs to have at least been exposed over a period of 20 to 25 years that particular procedure. So the idea is that instead of waiting for 20 to 25 years for them to become good, what if I go to medical residents who are still in medical school, I walk them through this process using this virtual reality combination to make the augmented reality. And the current solution they use is cadavers, which are dead bodies. But the problem with dead bodies is that they don't have blood and they're not representative of an actual case, of an actual like surgical procedure. Because when you cut into a cadaver, there's no tissue response. Most of it has been dead for like 24 to 48 hours. There's no blood coming out. There's no water. There isn't a real life scenario of what is happening. But if we can provide that added level of detail by use of the virtual environment, then hopefully by the time they get to practice on an actual person, they're much more proficient, they're much more guided. And also, one thing most people notice is that the best surgeons are usually the older ones. It's because they've spent 25 years to get to that point. But then once they get to that point, they only have like a 3 to 5 year period before they go down again, because cognitive decline kicks in, ageism, memory loss. So if I can get that pretty good surgeon to be at the age when they're like 30, then I've literally made them much better for like the next 25 years, and we don't have to wait for them to be 55 or 60 to be good. So
Keep up the good work.
thank you.
Okay, this next set of questions comes in from Ronnie M. And Ronnie wants to ask Uche, how long does it take to actually make a spacecraft?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. It really depends though on the given task that you're trying to complete. So essentially, let's say you're trying to build a spacecraft for to just send up a satellite, or to send up mini satellites, or some type of probe. If it's just for that, it's really based on the rocket that you'll need. And so, but for that, that'll take anywhere between 18 months to 2 years. And when considering for maybe you're actually trying to use it for humans, that's a whole nother ball game, just because for one, you have to go through a lot of safety protocols. You have to make sure that the astronauts are safe and they're healthy, and you have to prep them, so that takes time. And then also there's just a whole bunch of safety parameters that you have to consider when you're actually working with a spacecraft that's supposed to hold humans. And so with that, that can be up to 5 years, even more. Currently, there's like some projects that are happening called the Orion Project that NASA is doing, and that's under their whole Artemis program. And that's been well over at least 5 years as well. I've been working on it, or I worked on it in the past, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and they definitely still have a lot of plans to go, just because you get a lot of delays and just different things come up. So that's what I would say.
You brought up some really interesting points, and I would imagine Ronnie might send in a more specific question next time about, you know, the different parameters that he's looking, you know, to answer here, or have answered here. Maybe he'll write back and we can get you out another question.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good.
You know, whether or not it's transporting, the spacecraft has to transport people or not. So
yeah,
stay tuned. This question is from Marissa M. In fact, Ronnie's sister, and it is going out to Brianna. Brianna, with all the classes being virtual this year, what do you see as new software that's being developed that will make virtual learning better? And then we're going to tack on, and I think this is a teacher's question. How could that software be used in Marissa's math class, 6th grade math class?
So I really like this question because one, I was a math teacher prior to COVID, and I've also been a volunteer tutor like on and off since I was in middle school, and I always tutored math. And really what I think, well, in regards to math and learning math, most people are kinesthetic learners when it comes to math. They learn best by doing math. They can't just sit there in a lecture or just read a book and understand the math. They need to actually struggle through the problems and do the problems in order to fully understand and get the math concepts ingrained in their head. So I think the types of software that would best help from now on regarding learning math, especially 6th grade math classes, especially in the 6th grade math classes, would be collaborative software. Software where multiple people can interact with it. Think of Google Drive, how multiple people can edit one Google Drive document. So collaborative software would allow like a teacher to write on the board and also allow the teacher to bring their students up to interact with the board so that at this time they get the kinesthetic style of learning that is required for math. So I think that collaborative software is really just the key to making a better math class, because it would definitely allow students to better solidify what's going on in their math classes if they're able to interact with the teacher on what they're doing. So for example, right now we're using Zoom to make this video. Zoom has a feature, a whiteboard feature, that allows people to write on the boards. And if you give other people access to the board, they can also write on the board. So software that just allows everybody to pitch in and dabble with it is just the best for math.
Great ideas. You know, I'm a former math teacher as well.
Yes, yes. So I think that type of software just needs to be improved upon, because right now it can have a few issues. It's gotten a lot better, because you know, when I'm on Google Drive, I will have like team members all editing the same document and you see everything in real time. We just need to make sure that everything, all types of collaborative software is definitely in real time. So that's really just the type of research and the type of software that will make virtual learning better.
Yeah, and not just in math class, as you alluded to. All right, Uchi, she has a question for you as well. She would like to know about your SIR lab. So could you please tell us more about your SIR lab?
Yes, definitely. So it's definitely, I would say, one of the bigger labs within the mechanical engineering department. So our professor is Professor Kenji Shimada, and he's great. And he has around 60 students, 60 researchers, maybe even 70 now. And it's a combination of just PhD students that are usually leading the projects, and then you'll have master's students either working with PhD students or maybe leading their own smaller projects, and then undergrad that are always just supporting different projects. And I think it's a great group, especially if you're trying to get some just some initial experience with doing research, or if you're really just wanting to engage and collaborate with other people. And so the three main areas that we work on is computational. So it's, again, it's within the name. So computational, engineering, and robotics lab. And so when you're thinking of computational work, it's relating to any type of coding aspects that you might want to include, any type of design. We do a lot of different work with CAD design, computer-aided design work, and then also just looking at different geometries and how you can generate different structures. And so that's a lot of the work that I do. I do a lot of generation of very complex structures that are, again, used to reduce the weight of other components. When I'm thinking on the engineering side, we try to, there are projects where we try to apply the computational aspects of the designs that we work with to actually make engineering products. And then there's also just whole other teams as well, or other research teams that are focused on making products more streamlined, or just working with or collaborating with other companies or organizations to develop products. And then finally, we have the robotics side, which is focused on creating a robot for a given task. So for example, we have a lot of connections with companies in Japan. And so one example is we have this robot that's able to go along the outside of ships, and essentially either one, it would be either cleaning the ship hull for one thing, or I believe there is also a project where it would repair any cracks that it might see. So it would be just going along the outside of the ship and then actually maybe sintering or essentially fixing any cracks that it might find on the ship. And that's just one example. And we have a bunch of other imaging or sensing type of robots based on a given project. And so those are the main areas that we focus on. And we're even now starting to get into the additive manufacturing side. And so I've been sort of taking the head on that, especially with the metal aspect stuff, and then applying it to the aerospace side. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities, and if you're interested, you can always work within it. So it's a pretty cool lab.
So within the CER part of the lab, are you in the C part?
Yes, I'm more on the computational side. Could probably even say I'm on the engineering side too, just because of the design work I do. Sure. But definitely more on the computational side.
So you within that lab, students could be in more than one. You know, they could be in the engineering and the robotics part.
Yep.
Computation. Okay. And hopefully we have answered Marissa's question. This last question was submitted by Edward G, and it goes out to Alicia. And I'm going to invite any one of you to answer after Alicia's done, just to make sure we talk about all the good things that it does take to make a researcher. Edward wanted to know, what does it take to be a good researcher? And Alicia, it was directed towards you.
I think it's a really good question, because a lot of the thoughts that people have, like when considering whether they would like want to pursue research, is that you have to be like a genius. And I say this in such a way of like the stereotypical genius, which is basically you're able to do math in your head, you know the answer, you know what questions are asked even before they're asked, things like that. But what you find when you actually get into the process of doing research is that most of what is required for it is not taught in class. In fact, it's something that comes like within, not to sound too cheesy or anything, but basically some of the things that I think it requires is, one is patience. That's like a really big thing, because I do a lot of experimental work, and within this work, it's almost nothing goes right the first time. And so it's something that you have to be persistent. So you have to be able to stick with it and do it over and over again. And then you also have to have like a desire to want to pursue it. So this desire will lead to, basically, is the fuel that drives you to continue to work on your project. And you have to be like, it motivates you. And so it also takes sacrifice, and I say this in such a way where it's sacrifice of like time. So like, even though, yes, you want to go out and have like fun on the weekends, like every weekend, but unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. I'm not saying that you don't get to have any fun whatsoever during the process, but there's it's difficult. It's difficult, and so you have to put your everything into it if you want to achieve something. So what you put in is what you put out. So you put in a lot of hard work, you're going to get a lot of good stuff that comes out. But if you half-heartedly do things, then you're going to get half-hearted work.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Brianna wants to add.
Yeah, okay. So my bio doesn't say I'm doing research because I'm currently not doing research, but the first time that I ever did research was in my 10th grade year in high school.
Oh, wow.
So I was working on a project called polystyrene decomposing microbes, and I was just looking for microbes. Like there was just a theory that stated that there were potentially microbes that were able to decompose certain types of plastics, and I focused on this research for 3 years, like from 10th grade all the way to 12th. And I dedicated 6 days a week to doing my research. I was at school almost every day. And I took my whole summer breaks. Like I was always at school working on my research. So just like Alicia said, it's very important that you are, one, interested in your research and also dedicated to the cause of your research, because it does take a lot of time. So in order to be a good researcher, you have to have a genuine interest and make sure that you really want to do it. It has to be something that very much drives you, because if you don't like your research, then you won't be interested in putting forth the time to do the research. Like almost with anything that you do, not just research, in order to be good at it, you have to actually care about it. And you caring about it was what will make you want to pursue it and do it more. So really just dedication, and you can't be afraid to fail, because sometimes your experiment will go wrong and you can't let that get you down. You have to like keep persevering and pushing through every little incident and every little setback that goes within your time of doing research.
Be passionate, but be willing to make sacrifices.
Yes.
Ernest, did you have something to add?
Yeah, maybe more like a summary of what Brianna and Alicia was saying.
Sure.
I always get people asking me like about the PhD and is it about intelligence? And I always tell them it's mostly, I would probably say 99% perseverance. Like you get one question and then you try to find out if you can answer that question over a period of time. And you don't even notice the time going because you're taking your time to actually make sure that you know what the answer is. It's sort of like when you're still young and you're trying to find out why are Smarties or like M&Ms like a specific color, why aren't they like all red, all, you know? And you ask adults, they'll tell you something. You ask some other adults, they'll tell you something. Then you start to compare. Then after like a very long time, you go like, let me just go to the factory and ask them. You know, obviously you have to be older to get the factory. You got to get your parents' permission. But like that is essentially what the PhD is. Like you get to a point whereby you have asked a lot of people questions and you have this information, then you also make your judgment at the end of the day. You know, 300 people told me that they randomly color them. Okay. So if I go to the factory and then I see them being randomly colored, yes, they're randomly colored. End of story. So it's that perseverance to be like, I want to know what the answer to this question is. And it's just that level of curiosity that takes you through. So
yeah, some great advice. Great advice. Jamie Uche, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'd like to add. I think Brianna's point about not being afraid to fail is very important. That's been, one of the key things for me. When I started research in undergrad during my sophomore year, my research advisor told me before I ever set up a single experiment, probably 99% of the time we're going to fail. So at that point, it really, to me, became about becoming very process oriented and really sort of dedicating to the each and every day individual aspects of the work itself, and learning that even though you may fail or you may not necessarily get the result that you're aiming for at the beginning, that there are a lot of lessons to learn and note along the way that could very well still lead to a lot of fruitful publications potentially. I think that being able to sort of pinpoint opportunities along the way, even if it may seem like a failure, can still lead to a really valuable research experience overall.
Yes, I think the last thing I would add on top of what everyone has been saying is, one, I think PhDs are students who are very stubborn. I think, and that's something I even thought of, or I heard from another person the other day as well, but it's the idea that you're so passionate about this question that you're willing to spend so much time and so many years of your life to actually like solve that issue, because that's what your passion is, and that's what you're really trying to figure out. And I think if you're truly interested about it, then that's what you'll want to do. And I think the other aspect I would add is, if a PhD student or someone that has a PhD, is that they know how to balance their work, and they know how to pace themselves to eventually solve that problem. And I think it's even still something I'm still trying to get the hang of, just because, especially during the quarantine and everything, it's so easy to just continually doing work and to overwork yourself. But you have to know that this project or this problem that you're looking at is going to take some years to actually solve, or to actually reach a point to where you can actually make your own decision or your own conclusion on. And so it's really important for you to pace yourself, really accurately make the experience that you're working with. Don't rush anything. And again, what everyone said, be patient and be honest in the type of work that you're doing. And I think that's what makes really good PhD students, or researchers as well.
I agree. I agree. Well, we're almost out of time, but I want to thank you all. And just, I'm so honored to be part of the CMU family. And I hope one day to meet you all in person and to thank you personally. But as we close, can you spend just several moments on giving advice to, let's say, our Gelfand students that are in middle school right now, that may be struggling with online learning? Or I had one write in the other day, she misses her in-person science fairs where she got to present and all that. So if you want to spend just a couple minutes rather, on advice that you could give our middle school Gelfand outreach students who are all probably learning remotely at this point. And Brianna, let's start up with you. Any advice you'd like to give our middle schoolers?
Well, guys, I want you to know that you're not the only ones out here dealing with this. Don't feel so alone. Everybody's struggling with this, so you're not by yourself. It's very hard to stay motivated when you're not able to see everybody, but you have to try to maintain a positive attitude. I know it may be hard to do that sometimes, especially with not being able to see your friends and your teachers. And it's probably something that a lot of people did wish for, like not having to go to school all the time. But now that you actually see what it's like not being in school, it shows you how much you really relied on school for socialization and really just to have a good time, even though it can be, even though, just to be honest, sometimes it can be a little bit tiring. But I think my greatest advice outside of staying positive would be to try to reach out to other people through social media and everything. I mean, this is the information age that we live in, and we do have the technology to reach out to others. So even though you can't see everybody, be thankful that we can reach out to people with our phones or whatever current thing you guys use. I think a lot of people are on TikTok. You can make TikTok videos and send them to your friends. Be thankful that you can at least do that, and try to use that to fuel your positivity for navigating through these very unprecedented and uncertain times.
Thank you. Jamie?
I would just like to echo a little bit of that. Just continue to stay positive. Again, look for opportunities because they still do exist, even though we aren't able to do things in person. For me personally, during this time, even though I've had less in-person interaction, I find that I've been able to kind of still interact with family more so than I would have been able to beforehand, because I wouldn't have had, I guess, as much time at home, frankly, honestly. So, being able to sort of pinpoint those things in life that are still good right now, even though you're not necessarily around friends and stuff as much, definitely continue to value the time with your family, because once we are busy and everything begins to pick up again, it may not be there as much. And just continue to also just work hard in school, I would say for sure. It will pay off. It will continue to pay off if you continue to keep that, very focused, hardworking mindset. So.
Nice. Thank you. Uchi?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I'd say is kudos to you guys, just because I don't know if I could be a student at you guys' age right now and doing what you're doing and learning online. And you guys are probably getting some crazy computer skills just trying to figure everything out. And I think that's definitely something to be proud of. I will say that I've had some friends that have little siblings that are going through this, and I will say it's difficult. It's even been difficult for me as well. And so just know, again, you guys aren't alone. And remember that this will come to an end, although it does seem like it's been forever. One thing I always like to think about, whether I'm taking a test or whether I'm about to have a really nerve-wracking interview or a crazy presentation, is that whatever happens, everything always comes to an end. It might take a lot longer than you want it to be, but it will eventually come to an end. And so just keep that in mind, study hard, continue to work just as hard as you did when you were in school versus when you're at home, just so you can still have and maintain that interest that's guiding you to become either engineers, singers, writers, anything that you want to be, because again, that's the end goal. And so just remembering that. And finally, just continue to be with your family. I think this time has given me what Jamie said, just more time to actually talk to friends, family, and connect. I think that's the biggest things that technology has really been showing during this time. So be sure to do that as much as you can, and again, stay positive, but definitely wishing you guys all the best.
Thank you. Ernest?
Yeah, I guess more to echo to what everyone is saying, it is temporary. I personally I've tried to make the most of this negative situation. Uche knows very well that before COVID, I didn't know how to cook. Now I've learned I can make some signature dishes. So I'm trying to stay positive, trying to pick up a couple hobbies here and there, the digital photography, trying to use this time to sort of rediscover other things that I don't think I would have had the bandwidth or the time for. And I think that helps maintain the level of sanity. And I know, given your age, you probably, this is when you need the most type of physical interaction with other people your age. And it might be difficult to do that. But I'm pretty sure, you can maybe figure out a new outdoor game, and then you can patent it and then make a lot of money, and boom. So there's always opportunities to find or do something positive out of a very negative situation. And think about it this way: it's another preparation for how life can sometimes be different. So
There's our money man again, huh, guys? Alicia, advice for our middle schoolers.
Yeah, so I think that everyone summarized it really well. So basically my advice, in general, my advice would be consistency is very important. So maintaining that positive attitude, maintaining I guess you could say to stay busy. So coming out with new hobbies such as Ernest and his cooking. My new hobby, I'm trying to learn Spanish, and also trying to become a fitness instructor, and also staying in touch with family and friends. I feel like now that I'm at home, like Jamie had said, I have more meetings, talking with other people, and always being able to fit in between meetings. Sometimes I'll call my mom, and that's because I'm not, I guess, in the school environment. So it also really helps that I like live with my brother. So I like hang out with my brother a lot. And so that connection, connecting with other people that are even around you and getting to know them also really helps. So if you have siblings or even like hanging out with your parents, I guess that would be cool. Maybe not at that age, not in middle school. But yeah, so if you don't have siblings, connecting with a lot of people around the world through YouTube. I know for my younger siblings, there's like, I think it's through the public library where they have like these programs where there's, for example, there was this zoologist who came on, and then it was like an interactive program. And so they talked about like animals from like different places. And so you were able to talk with other people on like, they give you like a problem, like, what do you think a kangaroo, how high do you think a kangaroo can jump? And so the people would interact. So like even outside of schoolwork, being on the computer and interacting with other people. And then of course, not being on the computer and interacting with the people that are around you are also very important. So just like basically what everyone had said, like keeping that mindset that this is temporary.
Great answers, guys. Great answers. Thank you for all coming today. So in conclusion, I'd like to thank Brianna, Jamie, Uji, Ernest, Alicia. Thank you for spending your afternoon with me. I'd also like to thank Edward, Paula, Jonathan, Marissa, Ronnie, Elizabeth, Brandon, and Winston for sending in their questions. And finally, I'd like to thank the Leonard Gelfand Center for making this show possible. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. The 5 of you, I'll be in touch. Remember to stay safe and wear your masks. See you next time on the Go STEM Show. Bye-bye.